And we're back, unless you're on YouTube. And then this is just its own standalone video fight preview. Saul Canelo Alvarez. Who even calls him Saul? It's really Canelo Alvarez. No one even does this Saul thing anymore. He's taking on William Skull. I am joined by featherweight contender, up and coming fighter Malikai Johnson out of Sacramento, California. Before I keep going, Malikai, introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? Malikai Machine Gun Johnson, 14 and 0. I'm the NBA Continental Featherweight Champion, and I fight out of Sacramento, California. Train under Ray Woods with the Golden State Bloodhounds, and you know, I can do it all. I can fight. I'm over here commentating, and yeah, I'm trying to be one with the people. I ain't nobody special, just another dude, just like you
And Machine Gun goes, "Blah," right?
guys.
Yeah, that's what it does. So that's the type of punches he does in the ring. But I think it's like a walk down, something
You
like
know,
that.
that was what you said though, that just clicked to me or occurred to me. I think that's a sign of a legend that their nickname even supersedes their name. Like he doesn't who even knows Canelo's name is Saul anymore.
I mean that does speak to some greatness when like if you're to say Alvarez is fighting this weekend, people are like, who's Alvarez? And you say Canelo, and everyone just immediately goes, oh, Canelo's fighting. Well, he's taking on William Skull, who has the opposite problem. If you called him William, people would be confused. And if you called him Skull, people would be confused. I have seen three of his fights. I won't lie. I saw him when he fought my guy, Evgeny Shevchenko. It's a close, weird fight. I saw him when he took on Vladimir Shishkin. I thought Shishkin won the fight. He's never really been that impressive, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I might be a Cuban fighter hater. I liked Guillermo Rigondeaux. I like Arislandi Lara, but there are a lot of Cuban style fighters that I find tedious, boring, and just point centric, where they don't have that enthusiasm to look for a finish or beyond a finish to instill damage. And I feel like Skull kind of falls into that category. The one thing I'll notice or I will note is when they stood next to each other, William Skull is a lot physically taller and wider than Canelo. Now, that doesn't equate to power. He's a big puncher, Canelo, and I'm sure he's the heavier hitter. But we've seen Canelo at times have trouble with guys that move. So that is the question mark to me is can Canelo at this point in his career handle a guy who's pretty much just going to move around against him?
Right, right. So, I'm actually coming from the opposite spectrum on that. I'm a big fan of the Cuban school system. Um, Rigondeaux, he was pretty good. Wasn't my favorite. Arizona was my favorite. King Kong and Robiesi, I think all great fighters and up and coming Andy Cruz. But William Skull, just like you, never really heard of him until I believe they stripped Canelo or he dropped one of his belts and they announced that he was fighting Shishkin for the vacant
The IBF title, yeah.
yes, the IBF title. And Shishkin hadn't heard much of him, so I didn't know much of a challenge. I only knew that he fought Mike Guy, who I respect, a good journeyman from or gatekeeper, I would say, a respected
Tough veteran. We'll
yeah,
keep it ambiguous. A tough veteran.
very, very tough veteran. So he beat him, stopped him. So I knew William Skull was against a tough dude. Like you said, and I was reading on forums and that people said that they thought Shishkin actually won that fight. So yeah, what I think interesting is what is Skull gonna bring into this fight because Canelo, as much as people want to say, oh yeah, he's avoiding the big fight with Benavidez. He's old. He's got money now. He is slowing down, or he doesn't care anymore. He just, whatever everybody's judgments or whatever on Canelo. Every time he's fighting, he's not looking for the TKO, or he might be looking for the knockout still, but he's just getting decision, and they're wide decisions. The closest one that he's gotten, the closest scorecard he's gotten is one scorecard against Jaime Munguia that was 115, 112 that I thought was way too close. That judge, I'm not sure what they were seeing. And then Golovkin, maybe in 2021, the third fight. So he's still remaining consistent. We know what we're gonna see from Canelo. What is William Skull gonna bring to the table?
I'd also throw in the Caleb Plant. I thought Caleb was having moments of winning the fight, but I think Canelo was winning the war. He was putting a lot of sustained pressure on him, and even though Caleb might have been winning rounds, it was just hard for a fighter to sustain that level of intensity, the pressure that Canelo was on. I also want to bring up that William Scull's box rec photo looks straight out of the 2005 hyphy movement. So I think that's something that people should go look at.
Yeah. Well, William Scott, he he has all the recipes here for it's really what we're looking at what his performance he's going to bring. It has all the recipes here for him to do the upset. Yeah, like I said, we know how Canelo's coming. We just what are you going to do, William Skull? You're going to put on a good performance. You're going to outbox him. You're going to do what Erislandy Lara did. I think he won that fight. A lot of people say he ran, but thought he outpointed him. But or are you gonna do what Charlo did and literally run away the whole time? Or are you gonna do what Berlanga did, try to do some of the mind games, stay in front of him and get dropped? Or do what Munguia did and try to bring it to him and also get dropped. It just the only person that had success with Canelo, or the most success, I would say, Bivol, and he wasn't one of these going all the using the entire ring because Canelo does really good at lateral movement, cutting them off and throwing big hooks. But someone like Bivol going straight forward and back, in and out, it's a little harder for Canelo to get those counters off. And I haven't seen too much of Skull, but not sure if he has that ability. All
Bivol kind of fights like how I imagine a kangaroo would box. He kind of hops in, hops out, catches rhythm, timing. To me, this fight is simple. It's about is Canelo Alvarez motivated? He's beaten guys as good as William Scull, in my opinion, if not better. And even though he's getting older, this really shouldn't be a competitive fight if Canelo is motivated. To me, it's he's getting a lot of money doing the Saudi Arabia deal. What's his motivation? What's his level of interest? How hard is he training? And how serious is he taking? If he treats William Skull the same way that he treated Gennady Golovkin, I think we see a win. To me, I've had apprehension about where Canelo's career is going after the Bivol loss. It seems like he's taken a lot of fights that benefit him, but not as much the fans or the sport. And I think this is going to be a good assessment of where he stands in terms of competitive boxing. So I feel like he was catching guys at the right time, kind of Berlanga a little younger in his career. Munguia, he's been through some hard fights and he kind of is what he is. He was catching these guys at perfect moments. Charlo moving up in weight. We haven't really seen him in with like a top contender in a while. So I'm curious to see what he brings still.
No, I totally agree, and that plays into the whole upset minded um, uh, perception of this fight because that's one judgment or that that's one thing the fans do say like that for some I'm not exactly sure maybe it's because what you said the way the matchups look that he's not hungry, that he's not looking for super competitive fights, that he's coastal, but you know,
Well,
and
I'll just say it for what it is. You got Dimitri Bivol who beat him, and you got David Benavidez out there who's clearly one of the best guys. And for some reason, these fights aren't being made, and those guys seem to show interest in the fights. So when these fights are not being made, and you're the biggest name in the sport, essentially, people are going to start to wonder your motivations because you're not looking for the rematch with Bivol who beat you, or you're not looking to take on a young emerging Mexican American superstar in David Benavidez, who's essentially challenging your spot in the sport.
that yeah, no, that's true. Uh, and also in the negotiations, going with when they were talking about fights that are to be made for Canelo, he was up in the air about Jake Paul. He was up in the air about Turkey. He had some reservations about him, saying that he wants to control everybody with money, but then eventually switched from the Jake Paul direction and went to sign with him. So I wonder if his motivation is just a boatload of money or, super fights, because they're talking about after this one, he'll fight Terrence Crawford. Super fights, but also obviously favorable matchups. Another dude instead of coming up two weight classes, coming up three weight classes. Uh, yeah, Canelo is definitely looking business minded, but the fighting wise, you can't lie that remain consistent. He doesn't really, I mean, he doesn't look like he has that killer instinct anymore to just go out and finish a fight. But the one shots he does, catching them with, that power still remains there and the timing.
Okay. For those that are members of my newsletter, completely free, you can jump over. You catch the undercard part of this show on my newsletter. If you're on the podcast or just the YouTube channel, jump over. Or this is the end of the road. This is the end of the conversation for you, and this is all you get. So Jaime Munguia is taking on Bruno Sarase. I know I